Hi, and welcome to Coach's Corner, where systems matter and both personal and professional learning and development is beneficial for everyone and essential for some. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Let's get started.
So now we'll talk about negotiating.
Yeah. You mean when you said,
yes.
put on the brakes?
Yes, we won't get into that story just yet, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
So you briefly talked about who taught you how to negotiate.
Yeah.
And the question is twofold.
I can't remember one.
Yeah. What is important about negotiating, and when did you realize it?
You may have to hit me back up on the second part.
Yeah,
but part A. So, what was the first one again? See, I can't even. Yeah.
What is important about
winning at all costs?
Yeah.
No, I think that it's what I call play king and queen of the world. So begin with the end in mind, reverse engineer, backwards plan.
Yeah.
You know, I always used to tell, so in my other profession, you know, when I was an employee, it's like 80-20 women to men.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 223 employees and 170 of them are women.
Yeah.
And guess what all those women were doing at that time? They're getting married.
Right.
And so we used to talk about it a lot, backwards planning. I said, let's think about your wedding, right? And so where do you want to be? At the very end, you know, they're like Hawaii or wherever, right?
Right.
And I said, let's start backwards planning from there.
Right.
Do you want him to carry you across the threshold? Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive? Do you want a nice hotel? You want to sleep in the woods? So we would brainstorm around that.
Yeah.
And then we'd work it back. Okay, here's the actual ceremony. Okay, what about the reception? Here's the ceremony. Here's, how you get people there. Here's, and then at the very end, you got to write thank yous for all your, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So I have no idea why I just told that story, but there's a point to it. What was the doggone question again?
What is important about negotiating?
Yeah, so begin with the end in mind. Understand where you're at. So I kind of mentioned that earlier. So if what I'm wanting is, let's say, an item for $100, just to make it easy.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Mm-hmm. I won't pay $100.01.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, I'm done. Like, that's it.
Right.
Negotiation's done. Now, I'm not going to try to get it for $100.
Right.
Right? But I also don't want to rip anybody off on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I got to be careful because sometimes it's just a game for me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, well, I could pay $110, but it's a game. And if I thought that was a fair price for both of us, then I would do that. But I wouldn't go into it at $100 then. I would have went in at $110. I pretty much know like what's fair and what's not before I ever get there.
Yeah.
So I think it's like the budget. It's like prevention. It's like all of that. Right. I think that's the key part to the negotiation. And then you're not emotional about it.
Right.
I've got if you look around, I've got 10 billion cards and sports memorabilia. I'm not emotional about not one. Mm-hmm. I could care less. Yeah. Right? I could care less about any of it. It's not emotional to me. And it wasn't emotional when I purchased it.
Right.
It's fun. It's something that I enjoy.
Yeah. And
that's my entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do those other things that some people do. It's my form of entertainment. It just happens to be, I sell it too. So it's, it's just the way I roll.
Got it. And so the second portion is what age did you guys, negotiating is actually important.
The story you stopped me at.
Oh, okay. All right. So then we won't get into that.
We'll put that on hold. But to me, I think I was 20, where I was like, I'm sure you realize as you're younger,
right?
You're like, Mom,
yeah,
can I go to bed at 9:30 tonight instead of 9? And she's like, okay, So I think there's a lot of like informal,
right,
that you start realizing like, oh.
Yeah.
Like I'm becoming the man of the house at 4 years old. I just talked to my mom into an extra 15 minutes, right? Yeah. My dad wasn't having it. You don't even approach him with that. He's like, okay, it's not 9 o'clock anymore. It's 8:15.
Yeah.
I'm like, but Dad, 8 o'clock. I'm like, yes, Dad.
Right. Do you believe that negotiation or the negotiation skill is probably the best skill that you could have no matter what career path, job, whatever you do?
Well, so again, depending on how you define skill.
Okay.
So I call that like a strategy, but I think it's skills too. So, as I'm just going to kind of I clump those things
Yeah.
together like a strategy or skill. I think being caring about the other person is number one.
Mm-hmm.
I think negotiation is down there, but it's a great skill to have.
Yeah.
Negotiation, that's part of sales. That's part, different things like that.
Yeah.
But to me, the number one thing is just care about the person across from you. You can usually get into a win-win situation, and if you can't get into a win-win, then walk away.
Right.
I know I've told you I've walked away from many a deals,
Yeah.
but the biggest one was like 50 grand in my pocket. Best for me, not best for them. Now that doesn't feel good. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
right? But for me, I got to answer to a higher power. And, hopefully they're like, oh, that 50,000 you walked away from, here's 2 bricks of gold worth 100 million. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Jesus,
Right.
or whatever. But to me, caring's important. But I know where you're coming from. And,
Yeah.
and negotiation is, and how to sell correctly.
Yeah.
Those are 2 biggies.
Yeah. So I'm gonna clump these 2 questions together. So the one.
Do I get to the one that I want to
Yeah,
get to?
right now.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Come on, let me get to it.
So it is. I'm gonna clump together the story that you're about to tell,
Yes.
your best story, and then how do you negotiate personally? And I know that'll come across as you tell the story.
Yeah, so again, I follow a system.
Yeah.
Right? Begin with the end in mind, reverse engineering. What am I really wanting? All that.
Yeah.
And so the story I've been dying to tell, which was my first real negotiation.
Yeah.
Right? So my dad ran the West Coast with Woodshaft Golf Clubs. In his later years, he built a multi-million-dollar museum for a guy in Alabama. He was there for the whole summer and then some,
Yeah.
putting up all these golf clubs that he had purchased over the years, and different things.
Yeah.
So, and I told you that we took a trip across the United States when I was a kid. Both my parents were school teachers. The day after school got out, we jumped in a motorhome and we traveled and we hit, 30 or 40 states.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen things that most people could never even think about. You
Right.
know? Well, as we were going, he would stop and
Yeah.
he needed to pay for the trip. He's a school teacher making a lot, right? And so he would, my mom would, maybe be in the motorhome knitting or reading a book or whatever, but he would make me and my older brother, my little brother wasn't around yet, the oopsie baby, he's 13 years younger, 12 years. But my older brother and I, he's 4 years older, he would make us watch him negotiate. Me and my brother would be like this donkey, like this jackass.
Yeah.
So, I got to see a lot of negotiations, not just at that time, but, So I'm 20 years old, around there, and one of my ex-track buddies, who actually lived with us for a little while, I was his best man. I think I was his best man at the wedding. He calls me. He's so we're in Bakersfield, and then there's Sacramento, and then Turlock's about halfway in between, a little bit closer, maybe Sacramento.
Yeah.
Well, he thought I knew what I was doing. I'd never negotiated anything other than, can I go to bed early or late or whatever. And so, but he thought I was the man because my dad was the man. So he goes, hey, this guy's got sports cars. And I'm like, okay, I'll be like, I don't know what I was doing, but I went over there. So we sat down with this guy, and he was a triathlete. And at the time, I had asked him, same thing with the sales, what are you trying to accomplish? He said, I'm a triathlete, and I need a bike. I go, oh, well, how much is the bike? And he goes, $400, which, 30-something years ago, that was like probably a $5,000 bike now. And so I had several $100 bills, maybe a couple thousand in my pocket, because my dad told me about that on the side note, that he was at a garage sale one time and didn't have money in his pocket.
Yeah.
And he asked him to hold back some clubs that were worth, some good money.
Yeah.
And they said they would. And he come back like 30 minutes later, and they had sold them. And he said, I'll never have that happening again. You got to be a learner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he always had money in his pocket.
Yeah.
Right? Don't go rip him off, though. He's old now.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I, I had a couple $1,000, which is a lot of money back then. And my buddy's flipping through the 60s pile of these cards, flipping me Nolan Ryan rookies. They're going for $1,500 a pop, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going through the 80s pile. And I mean, this guy's got, because the 5,000 count box, he probably had $250,000 or more cards. And so we're just kind of thumbing through them as we're talking to this guy and figuring it out. I'm going through the 80s pile, and Ricky Henderson rookies were going for $150 back then. And I'm Ricky Henderson rookies, and I'm like, man, is this fake? You know, he's showing me no one right. So anyway, he tells me $400, and I swear, and I apologize for my cussing. I did not know what this meant, but I heard my dad say it 10,000 times. So I throw down 4 C notes, $100 bills, and I get up and I go, money talks and bull walks, like that. I didn't know what that meant. I'm 20 years old. I don't even know what that means. And I take 2 steps and I hear like you're crumpling up your bed. Boy, he grabbed that money so fast. So anyway, to end the story, we drive down the street. Me and my buddy do a Chinese fire drill. We run around. Is that what they call it? Run around the car. We get in. We spend all night sorting through these cards. We pull out like $5,000 worth of cards each that we wanted to keep. And then we go the next day to the local swap down there. We each make $5,000 on this deal. Profit. Now, that'd be like making 30, 40, 50,000 30 years later. A lot of money. My first deal. Right? So I call my papa. Thanks, Pop. I said, hey, I need to apologize to you. He goes, what about? I said, well, you know, I was cussing you. He said, you weren't cussing me, boy. I'll knock your teeth through your head. And I go, well, I wasn't cussing you to your face. I was afraid. I said, I was cussing you under my breath when you was making us watch you negotiate all those years. And he's like, you know, like, get on with it, the story. And I said, well, I just want to let you know you're a pretty smart guy. And I told him what happened. You know what he says to me? Beginner's luck, and hangs up on me.
I thought you could say, where's my 10%?
Yeah. No, that was after I got home, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so he hangs up on me, beginner's luck. And that would be the one thing that I've always been lucky with. I can't explain. I'm not lucky with hardly anything else. I find stuff that people do not find, and I buy it severely underpriced. And it's, but that was a great story. That was fun. I was Rico Suave walking out. I didn't know nothing going in.
Oh man, gotcha.
If you need to contact Brett or Coach, please do so on his social media accounts, email, and or text. You can find that information in the description below. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit the notification bell. Thanks, and we hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, you're long-winded. Oh my goodness. Woo! I can't feel my legs.